Perek Tes of Sanhedrin. We're moving right along. The Mishnah, the first Mishnah in Perek Tes, Mishnah Aleph, begins by listing those sinners, those Ovrei Avera, whose punishment is execution by burning, Sreifa, ve'elu hein anisrofim, and these are the ones who are sentenced to burning. So the Mishnah starts off with Abo al Isha Ubita, one who cohabits, one who has relations with a woman and her daughter. That is, he cohabits with his mother-in-law after having married her daughter, Isha Ubita. And secondly, Ubas Koyin Shazinsa, the very famous case, rather the very infamous case, of the married daughter of a Koyin who commits adultery. Usually an adulterer and an adulteress are executed by strangling, by chenek. If, however, she is a daughter of a Kohen, if she's a Bas Kohen, only the man is punished by strangling, while she is punished by Sreifa, the unique case of a Bas Kohen Shazinsa. Now the Torah in Vayikra, Perek Chov, Pasuk Yud Daled, states explicitly that cohabiting with one's mother-in-law is punished with burning. This is derived from this pasuk that the same punishment also applies to other relatives, to other koivim. And therefore the Mishnah elaborates and says, Yesh bichlal isha ubita, including in the pasuk that tells us, Isha ubita are also the following relatives, also the following koivim. Bitoy, ubas benoy. A man's daughter, the daughter of his daughter, and the daughter of his son. Now, when the Mishnah says his daughter, it doesn't refer to his daughter from his wife, because such a daughter is already included in the listing below, which says his wife's daughter. Rather, this daughter, Bitoy, is a daughter from a union, from a marriage between himself and a woman who was not his wife. So explains the Rav. Similarly, when it says the daughter of his daughter, Bas Bitoy, and the daughter of his son, Ubas Benoy, again, it refers to daughters of his children who were born to him by a woman who is not his wife. Daughters of the children of his wife, as I said a minute ago, are listed below. Weiter says the Mishnah, Ubas Ishto, Ubas Bita, Ubas Bina, the daughter of his wife, the daughter of his wife's daughter, and the daughter of his wife's son. His wife's daughter includes not only the daughter of himself and his wife, but also the daughter of his wife from another marriage, which means his stepdaughter. Likewise, the daughter of his wife's daughter and the daughter of his wife's son, again, refer to daughters born to any child of his wife, whether that child is from himself or another man. Says the Mishnah Vaita, who else? Chamoisoi, ve'em chamoisoi, ve'em chamav. His mother-in-law, the mother of his mother-in-law, and the mother of his father-in-law. Now, take note of the fact that although his mother-in-law was already mentioned, the Mishnah includes her here by way of introduction to his mother-in-law's mother and his father-in-law's mother. So explains the Rav. Now the Mishnah lists the Ovrei Avera, the sinners who are executed by beheading. were executed by beheading. Ve'iluhen aneherogin. The following are those who are sentenced to beheading. We learned before in Perek Zayin Mishnah Gimel the method of beheading. So who are the neherogin? Number one is a murderer. And number two is ve'anshe ir anidachas, the people of a corrupted town that all became oivdei avodah zarah. What is it again? Let's review. What is the din of an ir anidachas? If all or most of the town's residents were persuaded to worship idols, to be oivdei avodah zarah, the idol worshippers are executed through beheading, not through skila, which is the usual punishment for avodah zarah. Avodah zarah is usually punished by skila, but the unique case of ir anidachas is executed by beheading. So now the fact the Mishnah lists as the first major avera, the first most serious avera, which is punishable by beheading, comes along the Mishnah and elaborates on the deen of Ritzeach. Some very important, well-known cases in Sanhedrin that define for us exactly what is the avera of Ritzicha. Number one, Ritzeach shehika esraeyu be'even u be'barzel. If a murderer struck his friend with a stone or with a piece of iron. These are, of course, in Bamidbar, Perek Lamed Hey, the Torah's examples of Ritzicha. Be'even or be'barzel. Furthermore, v'chovash olav l'sei chamayim or l'sei cha'ur v'enu yachol misham, or if he pushed him down in water, or he pushed him into a fire, so that he could not escape from there, v'meis, and he died, chayav. Such a Ritzeach is chayav for execution, is chayav execution by beheading. Now, Mishnah tells us that Kavash olav l'sei chamayim or l'sei cha'ur ve'eno yachol la'alos misham, and he can't come up from the water or from the fire. Now, the truth of the matter is that even if the victim fell in the water or into the fire by himself, but he could have escaped, he could have come out, he could have saved himself, and this murderer directly prevented him from escaping. He's holding his head. He's not letting him come out. He's doing anything physically to stop him from escaping. So this murderer is liable for execution. In other words, it doesn't mean that he initially pushed him in, that he initially threw him into the fire. The fellow could have fallen in there, but he could have come out. He didn't let him. He's a Ritzeach. Says the Mishnah Baita, however, if he pushed him into the water or into the fire, and he was able to escape from there, but he died anyway, v'meis. So the Mishnah says, Potu, the murderer is not liable to execution. Favos, because in this case, even though the murderer pushed the victim into the water or into the fire in the first place, so I would have thought that he's chayav under any and all circumstances. He's not executed because the victim could have come out, and therefore it is not a full-fledged ma'aseh of Ritzicha. Potur. Zog the Mishnah weiter, shisa bois hakelev, shisa bois hanachash. If someone incited a dog against another person, or incited a snake against him, and the animal bit that person, and he died, potur, he's not liable to execution. Again, the point is, not that it's a good thing to do, not that it's a nice thing to do, not that he would be potur from mamonos and so on and so forth, but he's not executed for having done this. He's potur, he's not liable to execution, because he caused the victim's death only indirectly. Only indirectly. Why is it considered indirectly? Why is it considered indirectly? Because it was not the person that killed. It was the dog that killed. It was not the person who killed. It was the snake that killed him. So the person is responsible only for a direct. The person is responsible only for a direct act of retzicha. But an indirect does not carry the death penalty. Does not carry the death penalty. Potur. Zog the Mishnah weiter, hishich bois anachash. However, if he stuck the snake's teeth into him, and therefore he's taking the snake, and the snake is like a gun, the snake is like a knife, the snake is like a weapon. He is doing the actual maise with the snake. He stuck the teeth of the snake into him. Hishich bois anachash, and thereby killed him. So Rabbi Yehuda mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda rules that he's liable to execution because this is considered, according to Rabbi Yehuda, a direct act of murder. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a snake's poison is stored between its fangs, and therefore when someone inserts a snake's fangs into another person, it is as though he himself injected him directly with the poison. He himself shot the bullet into him. This is a direct act of murder for which he is executed. Look at the Rav. The Rav says, being that he put in the teeth, the fangs of the nachash into the bosser of his havikilu harogo. It's as if he actually directly murdered him. V'chayav. But the Chachamim poitrim, the Chachamim rule that he's not liable because even this, according to the Chachamim, is considered an indirect maaseh. According to the Chachamim, a snake's poison is not stored in its fangs. Rather, the snake itself brings up the poison from elsewhere in its body. And therefore, it was not the person that killed, but like we said earlier, it was the snake that killed. The person caused the death only indirectly, which is not enough to be mechayev him misa. It's not enough to give him the death penalty. Now, in the next case, the victim of a murderer did not die right away. Rather, he improved at first and seemed that he might live. And then, subsequently, he died. A very well-known case in Sanhedrin. If one person struck another with a stone or with his fist, again, these are the Torah's examples. In Shmois Perichof Aleph, Posuk Yudches, you can look it up. Where the Torah actually uses this lashon be'even or be'egoiv. Somebody struck his friend with a stone or with his fist. V'amdu lemisa, and the judges, the dayonim assessed that he would die from this blow. He would die from this attack. Ve'hu kol mima shehoya, but then he improved enough that the judges changed their minds and assessed that he will live. But subsequently, la'achar mikan, hichbit v'meiz, but then his matzav, his condition worsened, and he died. Says the Tanakama, chayav. The killer is liable for execution. He's chayav misa. He's chayav for a ma'aser retzicha. Since the judge's first assessment was that the victim would die, that's what the dayanim said to start with. They were right, and indeed he died without ever making a full recovery. So the killer is responsible for his death, according to the Tanakama. This is a ma'aser retzicha. In between he improved somewhat. Doesn't matter. The Chatchila, the dayanim said, such a blow is going to kill him, and he died. But Rab Nechemya disagrees. Rab Nechemya says, Potu, he's not liable to execution. Sheraglaim ledover, the very famous expression of Chazal, Sheraglaim ledover, because there is support to the idea that his death resulted from some other cause besides the initial attack. According to Rabbi Nechemia, the fact that the victim's health improved after the attack shows that it was not the attack. It was not the attack. It was not the initial blow. It was not the initial rock. It was not the initial fist that killed him, but some other factor, but some other cause. Now, if the judges originally assessed that the victim would live, and then he got worse and died, everyone agrees, both the Tanakama and the Nechemia both agree that he's not liable, because the Dayanim said initially he's going to live. He died. He died from some other reason. He died through some other cause. That's what the Rav says at the very end of the Mishnah. The Rav, Sheraglaim ledover, Shalomeis machmas makazu. He didn't die because of this. He died by some other factor. The Dayanim said initially he's going to live. Okay, good Mishnah.